Hey, Ron here from Military Images Magazine with today's episode of Life on the Civil War Research Trail. I spent this morning editing the first story for the spring 2023 issue. As you may recall, the winter issue is currently at the printer, and there's no time to waste. So I'm jumping into the work that's needed to be done for the spring issue. And looking over what we had and starting to get the plan together, I turned my attention to the Citizenry, which is a column we started a few years ago. And I thought I would talk about the origins of the Citizenry because this column doesn't exactly mesh with your thoughts about what is a military image because we're looking at civilians, not soldiers. So I want to give you a little bit of a backstory. So those of you who see the column in the magazine, whether you get it in print or digital, will appreciate how that column came to be. The origins of it go back a few years ago to our executive editor, Rick Brown. We were at the Gettysburg show and just talking about all of the Civil War images that were out there. And Rick had purchased some civilian images, which were just terrific. And these civilian images were from the Civil War period. And we got to musing about the idea it would be kind of interesting to get some of these images into the magazine because they do tell an interesting story about the Civil War. And so connected to that, we were working on a project, which we're still working on, which is documenting all of the identified images that have appeared in the magazine throughout its 40-plus year history. At this time, we've recorded over half of the issues. So we've got about 22 years done. And the numbers tell an interesting story. Over 3,100 identified Union images are included, about 1,100 Confederate images, and more than 300 civilians. So these images of civilians have always been part of the magazine. They haven't been the sole focus, but they've been connected to images of soldiers and sailors and other members of the military. So there's that little detail. A third detail comes from one of our contributing editors, Elizabeth Topping. Around the time I was talking with Rick about the possibilities of a column dedicated to civilians, I reached out to Elizabeth to get her opinions and thoughts. And she said something that really sort of solidified my desire to make this happen. I'm going to read you her quote because I think it really helps set the stage for the column. She said, "All civilians were connected to the war. If they did not participate in the war directly as nurses, doctors, sanitary or Christian commission workers, or worked in munitions or in making uniforms, they participated in other ways. Many boxed homemade sundries and foodstuffs to send to soldiers in camp and hospital. Many gave food and drink to soldiers as they passed through cities and towns. Many buried soldiers that were family, friends, and strangers. Many held concerts, theatrical benefits, fairs, bazaars, raffles, lotteries, etc., to raise money to aid the soldiers. There was barely a soul whose life was not touched in some way by the war. And let us not forget, those soldiers weren't birthed from a military womb. They were civilians before and, if they survived, after the war." I don't know that you could possibly say it any better than that. I certainly can't find the words. So Elizabeth Topping's wisdom certainly persuaded me to go in this direction. So the column has been established for the better part of 4 years. And we featured each quarter in each issue, we featured a civilian and told their story. They make up 90% of the population because 10% enlisted in the military. So we celebrate their lives, we celebrate their contributions, we celebrate their likenesses in the magazine. So that's the backstory. The story that I worked on today, well, I'm not going to talk about that right now. Let me just tell you, it's pretty cool, and it comes from Elizabeth Topping's amazing collection. So you'll have to wait until the spring 2023 issue comes out to read it and see it. But until then, you can check out back issues. You can go on to our premium password protected website if you're a subscriber and enjoy the full 4 years worth of columns. So that's it for today. I wish you a great weekend, and I'll see you next Monday on the trail. Take care. Bye.